Ever notice how some news stories just blow up and everyone's got a super strong opinion, but you're kind of left wondering, like, wait, what's even going on?
It happens all the time, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Hmm.
You guys requested a deep dive on all the drama surrounding Donald Trump and the H-1B visa program.
And let me tell you, it's a doozy.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah.
Okay, so to get everyone up to speed, the H-1B visa, it's not just some random bureaucratic thing, right? It's like the golden ticket.
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal.
For companies, especially in tech, to hire people from outside the U.S. for specialized jobs.
It's
Like,
the really in-demand ones.
yeah, exactly. Think like software engineers, data scientists, those roles that require some serious skills.
And the idea is that if companies can't find qualified Americans to fill those roles, well, the H-1B lets them bring in talent from other countries.
Right.
And that's supposed to keep the U.S. competitive globally, at least in theory, but it's always been a bit of a controversy magnet.
A lightning rod for sure, because the big question is, does it actually help the U.S. economy, or does it just end up replacing American workers?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, and that's where things get really interesting with Trump.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets good.
During his first term, he was all about America first, right?
Oh, yeah. Remember that?
He even restricted these visas.
Big time.
But now,
Complete 180.
total flip-flop, he's suddenly singing the praises of the H-1B program.
I know, it's crazy.
And to make things even spicier.
Like, we need more spice.
This shift seems connected to two major things. First, his appointment of an Indian-American venture capitalist.
Yeah.
Basically someone who invests in startups as his AI advisor.
Interesting.
And second, his very public bromance with Elon Musk, who is a massive supporter of the H-1B.
Elon Musk never wanted to stay quiet.
Okay,
So we've got a Times of India article laying out Trump's latest statements, a Reddit thread from the R Conservative subreddit, and spoiler alert, it is fiery.
Oh, yeah.
And a Reuters piece to give us the broader context.
Sounds like a good mix.
Let's jump into that Times of India article first.
Hmm.
What's Trump actually saying here?
Well, he went straight to the New York Post, which is interesting in itself.
Yeah, bold move.
And he basically said he's always been a fan of the H-1B, even used it for his own businesses, and thinks it's great for America.
And this comes right after that very public back and forth between Elon Musk and, like, everyone who's ever criticized the program.
Yeah, it seems like he really went to war defending the H-1B, even quoted Tropic Thunder.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's passionate about this one, and it's worth pointing out that Tesla, his electric car company, got over 700 of these visas just this year.
So he's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk.
Exactly.
But how does this line up with Trump's past actions? I mean, he literally put the brakes on this program during his first term. What's changed?
Well, that's where that Reddit thread comes in. This is where we get a glimpse into how some conservative voters are reacting to this apparent flip-flop.
It's not pretty. Lay it on me. What are people saying?
A lot of anger, a lot of feeling betrayed, like Trump's abandoned his America First agenda. You see comments like, so much for America First. If he goes through with it, the whole thing needs to be tossed out and remade.
Wow, some strong words there.
Yeah, they're not holding back.
But is everyone on Reddit feeling this way?
It's actually a mix. Some are still on the Trump train, they're giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But even among those folks, there's this underlying worry about what it means for American workers. Like, they see this as putting big corporations ahead of everyday Americans.
Yeah, that's a common concern.
One comment that really jumped out at me was, did we get Fing swindled?
Ouch.
Yeah, it seems like this whole situation has really shaken some people's faith in him.
Understandably so. This is a big deal.
And that brings us to that Reuters article, which helps explain why Trump might be making these statements now.
Okay, so what's the bigger picture here?
It all boils down to that Indian-American venture capitalist Trump picked as his AI advisor.
Right.
His name's Krishnan, and apparently some of Trump's supporters were not happy about it.
Really?
Yeah, they saw it as going against his whole stance on immigration. So this very public support for the H-1B program
Could be damage control.
Exactly. It's like he's trying to smooth things over.
So he's trying to walk a very fine line here. On one side, he's got to keep those America First voters happy. But on the other, he's cozying up to the tech industry, who basically rely on the H-1B to get the talent they need.
It's a tough balancing act for sure.
Feels like he's caught between a rock and a hard place.
You could say that, and this isn't just about Trump, this is a tiny piece of a much bigger issue that's been brewing for a while.
What do you mean?
Well, this whole situation really highlights the growing tension between what the tech industry wants and what working class Americans are worried about.
Makes sense.
It raises some really big questions about the future of work, the role of immigration in a globalized world, and how politicians are supposed to handle these competing pressures.
That's a lot to unpack, and I bet you're sitting there thinking, what does this all mean for me, right?
Well, whether you're in tech, worried about your job, or just trying to figure out what's going on in the world, this H-1B debate is something you need to understand.
For sure.
Because it's not going away anytime soon. So we've seen all the political drama and the fiery online reactions, but what about the actual economic impact of this H-1B situation?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are really worried about, right?
Exactly. Is it actually stealing American jobs, like some are saying? Or is there more to the story?
Is it as simple as that?
Well, it's rarely that straightforward. There's actually a ton of research on this, and some of it suggests that the H-1B can be a good thing for the U.S. economy.
Really?
Yeah, think about it. When companies bring in these highly skilled workers from other countries, it can spark innovation in new businesses even, and ultimately it can create more jobs, even for Americans.
So it's not just about filling one position, it's about the ripple effects.
Exactly. And we can't forget, those H-1B workers are paying taxes, they're contributing to the economy, and sometimes they even start their own companies down the line, which creates even more jobs.
That makes sense. But I can't ignore those comments we saw in that Reddit thread. People are genuinely worried about losing their jobs to foreign workers who might be willing to work for less.
Oh, those concerns are totally valid.
Yeah.
There's definitely evidence that in some cases, companies use the H-1B program to replace American workers with cheaper labor.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Absolutely. It's not ethical, and it can drive down wages, especially in certain fields.
Right.
And it's especially worrisome when companies use the program to basically outsource entire departments, which means the U.S. could lose expertise in those areas over time.
So it sounds like the H-1B program itself isn't inherently good or bad. It's how it's used that makes the difference.
Exactly. And finding that balance, that middle ground, is key.
Right. Can we reform the program to get the benefits without all the risks?
That's the big question. Is there a way to protect American workers while still letting companies access the global talent pool?
Is there a way to do both?
Well, there are some ideas out there. Some folks propose raising the minimum salary for H-1B workers.
Okay.
So companies can't undercut American wages as easily.
Makes sense.
Others suggest making companies pay more for each H-1B worker they hire, and then using that money to fund training programs for American workers in those in-demand fields.
So investing in American workers to help them compete.
Exactly. There are also proposals to prioritize companies that have a good track record of hiring American workers and investing in their training. Reward the companies that are already doing things right.
That seems like a good incentive. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a promising approach, but any reforms would require a lot of thought and input from everyone involved: businesses, workers, policymakers.
Yeah, this isn't a decision to be made lightly.
Absolutely. There's a lot at stake.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for the average person?
Good question.
This whole H-1B debate is a symptom of these larger forces at play. It highlights how complicated immigration policy is in a globalized economy.
Where talent can come from anywhere.
Exactly. And it shows just how tricky it is for politicians to balance the needs of different groups, especially when you have powerful industries like tech pushing for their own agendas.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in.
And it really makes us think about what we value as a society, right? Do we prioritize protecting the jobs we have now, or do we embrace this idea of global competition and a more fluid workforce?
It's a tough question.
No.
No easy answers there.
Nope. And it seems like Trump's caught right in the middle of this whole tug of war.
He is, isn't he?
What do you think about his motivations here? Do you think he's genuinely had a change of heart on this H-1B issue, or is it all just politics?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to know for sure what's going on in his head.
Yeah.
But he's clearly trying to appeal to a few different groups at the same time.
For sure.
He wants to reassure his base that he's still the America First guy. But he also wants to stay chummy with the tech industry, which has a lot of power and money, let's be honest.
A lot of influence.
It does feel like he's walking a tightrope, you know?
He is.
He's got those America First voters on one side, the tech giants on the other, and he's trying not to fall off.
Exactly. And it'll be interesting to see what he does. Will he side with the tech industry, or will he try to find some kind of compromise that keeps everyone happy?
Only time will tell, I guess.
Yeah.
But this whole situation makes you wonder about the power of the tech industry in politics.
Yeah.
Are we headed for a future where tech companies have more say than voters?
That's a valid concern. The tech industry's gotten really powerful these days, and they're not afraid to throw their weight around to get what they want.
It's true.
But they're not the only ones in the game. Politicians have to juggle a lot of different interests, and at the end of the day, they answer to the voters.
That's true.
Yeah.
And speaking of voters, this whole H-1B thing also reflects how people's attitudes toward immigration are changing.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really hot-button issue.
It brings up a lot of strong feelings on both sides.
And it's a conversation we need to have as a country. What kind of immigration policies do we want? How do we balance economic needs with social and cultural concerns? It's complicated.
No easy answers there.
Nope.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've seen how Trump's stance on the H-1B program has changed, heard the passionate reactions it sparked, and talked about the bigger economic and political picture.
Yeah, we explored the arguments for and against the program, the potential for reform, and the bigger trends that are shaping the future of work in immigration.
Hopefully this deep dive has given you a better understanding of this complex issue. And more importantly, it's got you thinking about all the different factors at play and the tough questions we need to ask ourselves as a society.
That's what we aim for.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought. What does this controversy tell us about the balance of power between politicians, big tech, and everyday Americans?
It's a good question.
Keep thinking about it. Keep exploring this issue and come to your own conclusions.
Yeah.